Hey folks, welcome back. This is Chris in Central Pennsylvania. Saw an article in the Daily Maverick by Marianne Tom talking about my interview with Neil Diamond of the South African Chamber of Commerce USA. And while it's factually correct, and she did a reasonable job, mostly correctly quoting what I said, still it gives a false impression about the refugee program to the United States. Now, I've talked endlessly since the very beginning that when you pick up stakes and move to another place, you change. You're not the same person. You're not the same people that you once were. I gave the example of Afrikaners who, after the Boer War, went to Argentina. And to this day, these people are not Afrikaners. That culture is pretty much lost. But they did find a new life and a safe life for themselves, their family, and for their offspring. And that's one of the challenges if you were to come to America. There's a few exceptions: the Amish, the Mennonites, the old Spanish families of the Southwest of Arizona, New Mexico, and Southern California have retained their unique cultural distinctiveness, their language, which was either German or Spanish as a first language, but they're fully integrated as Americans and participate in society. They vote, they pay taxes, they contribute to our economy, and they're Americans in every sense. That could happen, but it's difficult to do unless groups migrate in mass. And if you come here under the refugee program to the United States, you won't be coming here in mass. You might have a lot of people come here, but you're going to be placed around the country. So the only way you wind up in a community together is if at some point later on you all move to North Dakota or you all move to Montana or something like that. That doesn't mean you can't retain your cultural distinctiveness, and you're welcome to. Cultural distinctiveness is what makes America strong. It makes us better. Yes, we have a melting pot, but we all add our own pieces to it, whether it's kindergarten from the Germans or it's tacos from the Spanish or Mexicans. We all bring our cultural distinctness that changes and modifies our society, but you accept the mores, norms, and values of the society you become part of and contribute to. So I want to make that clear. That's something you give up. When you migrate somewhere else, or you move somewhere else, or you go somewhere as a refugee, you give up things, but you also gain things. You come to America, you gain access to a vibrant society where you have liberties and freedoms which you don't necessarily enjoy elsewhere. You have an opportunity for safety, for progress, for advancement, for employment, for entrepreneurialism that is often missing elsewhere. So you gain some, you lose some. I don't want people to think that I'm rubbishing coming here or that I'm celebrating coming here. I've tried to be agnostic and objective about the refugee program and tell people there are benefits to it, there are disadvantages to it. But that story in the Daily Maverick gives the impression that I just gave it a negative spin, which is not the case. I gave an objective commentary on it, as did South African Chamber of Commerce USA. I think Neil Diamond was very fair in that conversation, as was I, about what to expect. And his comments about him coming here as an immigrant to America, not a refugee, but as an immigrant, are very apropos to what your experience could be like if you come to America. Now, I'm standing out here in a typical suburban, that's not typical, but a typical suburban Pennsylvania environment. There's a Wendy's fast food place behind me, and there's a grocery store just behind that, kind of like a Pick and Pay or a Checkers over there. Got a Starbucks over here, and an Arby's, and just right off the turnpike, a pay road you have to pay for, kind of like the Gauteng toll. But anyway, and there's a university just across the street here on the other side of the highway. So my point is that there's a lot of opportunity here in America, and if you do come to America, you'll be fine. We have programs to help refugees, assistance, financial programs. You can watch the videos on my list of refugee program videos, which talk about who's eligible to come to America. The background checks are necessary, and then finances and money that's available for people coming here. You won't be destitute. You won't be put in FEMA tents. That's a fairy tale. People have lied to you. You will, however, be expected, if you're capable and physically capable of working, to get off your bum and go work. We're not importing people to be welfare recipients. There will be some people who come in or physically disabled. As a consequence, they can't work, or people are too elderly to work. Well, then there are systems in place to help those people. But you won't be left destitute. Bear in mind that when you come here as a refugee under the Refugee Resettlement Program, America is inviting you to come to America because, for whatever reason, whether you fled from Darfur or from South Sudan or from Somalia, or you're Rohingya in Myanmar or Uyghurs in China, you have fled from something or trying to flee from something because your life is in peril, and we've invited you to come to America. We want you to come here. We're not going to let our guests suffer. That isn't how it works. So don't believe people that lie to you about that. But it's not all roses. You give up some things. Life is different here. In some ways it's better, in some ways you may not find it better. When you relocate, now I can talk very extensively about relocating. I spent 36.5 years in the U.S. Army, 34 in active duty. I moved 26 times and lived in 16 foreign countries. Get a handle on that. Now, my move was different than a refugee's because I was in the Army, I had an employer, I got paid the same pay wherever I went, and they took care of the household goods and moved my things around my vehicles. So it made it a lot easier. Also, in my assignments in Africa, I was typically a diplomat and had diplomatic protections. So that's very different than a refugee. But the point is that picking up stakes and moving is a challenge for everybody. And I've done it far more than most people in their life. And that doesn't even begin to talk about my life before I came in the Army, when I lived all over the United States in dozens and dozens of states. So the point here is that picking up stakes and changing your life takes courage, it takes dedication, and it takes commitment. But you couldn't get a better ticket to come to the United States than a refugee offer, because you don't pay anything for the process. You don't need lawyers, you don't need consultants, you don't need to pay any fees whatsoever. It's all taken care of. You don't even need to pay your way here. If you lack the money for a flight, the International Organization of Migration, IOM, fronts you a no interest loan up front so you can come here. So if it's of interest to you, pursue it. If it's not of interest to you, stay in South Africa. That's your prerogative. I'm not trying to encourage anybody to come to the United States or dissuade you. Just give you the facts. And for that, I get pillared and attacked left and right, day and night. And you know what? That's all right, because small-minded people are small-minded people. And we deal in facts, we deal in reality here, and that's the purpose of this conversation. So I hope that you found this useful. I also hope that it kind of clears the ground a little bit about the Daily Maverick article, which was not a negative article, but when you start the title, the fleeing out of South Africa, that kind of gives the impression of where you're going with this. So I hope that clarifies things a little bit. And in future, I would ask politely that journalists who use my content or report on my content have the courtesy to contact me for clarification rather than simply quote things that I said in a conversation. That's fine to do that, but you probably ought to have the full story. And by the way, I'm much more than simply a YouTuber. Just so you know that, Marianne. Do a little research, find out about me. Anyway, all right, folks, that's it. Thanks a lot. I hope that this finds you all well and a good weekend. Today, it's Friday, the 28th of March, and the Stormers are at Ulster. Got to win this one to stay in playoff position, so go Stormers. Good luck to the Bulls, to the Sharks against Leinster. Good luck with that one, and to the Lions tomorrow. Cheers, everybody. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.